Welcome to CKO.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. It's always great to be at the Trace3 events. This is my second time, and it's getting better and better.
So you're like a
we
pro
love
now.
that.
Well, he's like a
Yeah.
pro. Yeah, I mean, if there's things to get excited about, data security, obviously, a big topic, a big talk topic now, especially I think with AI obviously in the forefront and kind of leading that charge. But you want to talk about, I guess, your solution for those that don't know.
For sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you didn't hear AI today, so maybe it's a great opportunity to speak
Just
about
a
that.
little.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe I would like to start to say that at the end, AI is a data security problem.
Absolutely.
big
Data
time.
security challenge.
Yes.
And
Gold
that's-
star for that, yeah.
Exactly, and that's the best. And this is the reason we see AI as kind of in one aspect is great for companies. It's a great accelerator. It's a way of life, I like to say it.
Oh.
On the other end, like any new technology, you need to handle that in the right way, in a very responsible way. And we are exactly the connector between the AI and how to leverage that to secure. I like to say fast and secure.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much, because a lot of times people come to us at Trace3, our customers, they want us to solve for AI security problems.
Sure.
And a lot of times what's at the heart of it really is data security.
Yeah.
And
It
so
is.
like a solution like yours is paramount for what's happening in the world today, as well as what our customers are thinking about. And so, looking at that space in terms of data security, I know that your tool does a lot of different
Yes.
things, right? And
Yeah.
at scale, which is like absolutely paramount for our enterprise customers. So you want to go into a little bit of the weeds in terms of what your platform has to offer?
Sure.
Sure. So when we speak about data security, and in the past it was very hard to do it, and this is what is so innovative and so unique in our platform, is the first step is discovery, the second one is classification, and the last one is context. When you combine it together, when you do it the best and specifically at scale, you can solve the basic problem of data security. So what we do, we discover any piece of data. Just think about any place, any type of data. We find it in a very automatic way. That's very unique. The second one is to classify it.
Yes.
By the way, to do everything in the customer environment. We don't take out any piece of data. So discovery, classification, and the last one, as you mentioned, is the context. And when you do those kind of capabilities together, you can, on top of that, you can do, I would like to say, whatever you want, because you know everything about your data. You find it, you understand it, and you add the context. Who has access, data activity, and everything. And on top of that, of course, we help organizations to solve the major problems. We spoke about AI readiness as an example.
Big time.
Sure.
Again, garbage in, garbage out. We don't want to push the wrong data to the wrong place. We help you to do it. You don't want that the wrong model will touch and have access to the wrong data. We help you to do it. And so on and so on. And that's, from one hand, it's the basic. On the other end, it's the top priority, it's the most important part to let organization run faster, build their business, because at the end of the day, the difference between organizations in 2026, it's how you can leverage your data.
Yeah.
That will give you the advantage from the others.
Well, and I think it's such a refreshing approach. I mean, we see it all the time. How many failed DLP implementations people are, because they're trying to go about it with the rigid categorization at the bottom, and not letting the data speak for itself. And I think that's what your platform really does, is it says, hey, let me, without you saying anything, let me go tell you what I'm seeing. Let me go tell you where I see your data, number one, where is it, and what is it? I'm giving you the broader context. I'm not just saying, oh, here's a category for PII, here's a category for, credit card or financial information. No, let me tell you what it is. Let me give you the context around it. This is where I found it. This is how I found it. It's in a database. It's in a file. It's not just a file. It's it's a document, you know.
The
with-
who, what, when, where, why
Exactly, right.
of a platform.
And I think that's important because we see the failures and we see the frustration more of from the customer side of, well, I bought all these things, I tried to put them together and it didn't work. Or, you know, I think another great part of your story, even on the Microsoft side, you know, we see a lot of customers making big investments in it, obviously, Office 365 and that platform. I guess can you even talk a little bit about how you complement that? You don't even try to replace it. You do complement it very well.
Absolutely. You touch like in a very important topics and points because number one is we see ourselves, and one of the CISO told me, used that term 2 years ago, we are the brain.
Yeah.
We are the brain of the data security program. Because we can see everything, we can understand everything, and we can connect the dots in between the parts. Now you can leverage our knowledge for the others. DLP, as you said, they're guessing.
Yeah.
They try to understand.
Right.
They don't have the context. They don't have the full picture.
And
So-
it's very noisy with the security operations
Oh my
center.
gosh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So noisy.
So we help them, like we push them the context. We push them the labels about what is the data all about, and then they can do the job much better than anything else.
Sure.
So you can leverage that brain because if you have the context is the king, right?
Right.
And when you have it, then you can do it. The second example you mentioned before, it's M365 and Microsoft. They do a great job, but again, they don't have the context. They can find everything. They can classify in high accuracy. So we help them to do it, and we are very complementary tools that can help organization to leverage the current tools, but also to replace part of them step by step.
Well, and also it's also to increase their ROI of their investment. Like so they've made this great investment that is actually risky. And so by your tool complementing that and really elevating that area to allow them to make really strong business decisions on their data really allows them to realize, you know, their spend that they have made in these more riskier platforms like a Copilot, where there is the potential for so much data loss right now. So many employees are putting in, very sensitive data, if it's either company IP or, other types of business types of documents or customer documents into these tools.
Well,
Your tool is really helping them, one, take a step back and making sure that risk is decreased. So in a way, you're helping them, leverage AI with their current tool, but also protect them in so many different ways.
yeah. And I love the fact you use the risk side of it. Because
absolutely.
to me, AI is a risk magnifier, in the respect that, your tool has another side to it. One, it'll classify, give it a context, but the permission side of it, they don't consider, even with a Copilot enablement, have I really scrubbed my data to understand, did somebody misapply permissions years ago? That person's gone. If they've left the organization 3 years ago and nobody knows they misapplied some rights, and now when they turn Copilot on, it's like, oh, everybody does have access to the HR folder. We didn't know that, but Copilot found it. And then someone can ask a question, hey, who's getting paid this? Who's getting that? And that data's there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as you said, like AI amplify and accelerate and take it to the, in a magnitude, to the next level. Everything, if you did a mistake years ago, now everyone can see it very fast. And as you mentioned, if you ask me 3 years ago, we were very focused about the risk, how to help organization to manage, to reduce the risk. In the last few, maybe 2 years, we help them to get more rewards. So now it's the risk and the reward.
Yeah.
From one aspect, we help them to reduce the risk, to understand everything, to manage it. On the other hand, we help them with the reward because they can adopt AI and adopt new technology much faster, much better, in a responsible way, to make sure that they don't pay too much for their mistakes.
Yes.
So that's kind of the balance we help organizations do it and accelerate everything.
And it doesn't matter where the data lives. And like we've talked about in other sessions, the data is going to SaaS applications. The data is going to the cloud. The data is going, on-prem still of all the legacy data they've got. And I think the fact that you'll connect to all of those, just from one central point is great. They don't have to spend the time kind of figuring out where the data is first. You'll say, hey, I'll take care of it. Just make me connections to that, and I'll go scan it for you.
Exactly. We are agnostic about where is the data. Someone told me a few years ago that data has its own life.
Yeah.
Oh, what's
And,
that?
and that's so true. Like,
Sure.
you cannot control it. It's like water. You put it here, it's leaking there, it's moving there. You cannot control it. So for the first time ever, I believe, you can control it. Because as from the organization perspective, they don't need to think about. They
Right.
don't need to tell me where I need to find the data.
Right.
They just need to tell me, this is my mission.
Right.
And I found everything for them. I can let them exactly understand where, who, what, and then they can take decision. At the end, we are here to help the organization to take business decisions.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things about, your technology is when it's really thinking about the full life cycle of data security, right? You're doing that, inventory, you're doing that classification and that context, but also you're helping prevent, data loss and that kind of, response capability. But also one of the things that I really, admire about your tool is the scale portion on how you're able to maximize that scale. Will you go into a little bit more detail on kind of what your vision around that was and how you guys are maximizing that for organizations today?
Sure. So first of all, I need to speak about my co-founders and the tech team that from day one, they understand that.
I love that.
I didn't understand that for sure, but then they could understand that the scale is so important. Because if you want to deal with scale in the right way, in a very efficient way, you need to build your product related to that. You need that the architecture, like everything should be ready for scale. And that's what I did from day one. So these days, you can see that petabyte scales. Data is everything. Data is everywhere. The capacity of the data that organizations have. I'm not sure if you're familiar with someone that will tell you, I would like to delete the data. No, I want to archive.
Yeah.
Maybe someone needed. No one, I asked some organization in the past, maybe you can let me, like in a fully automated way, I delete the data that you don't use, like for 3 years.
I love that. Data
No one-
retention. I
Yeah,
know
of
they hate
course.
it.
No, they hate it because they're afraid about deleting the data. So,
But it
need it.
reduces their risk if they would
Right.
delete
Of
it. If
course,
they
that's the
don't need
best
it,
solution.
It's the best solution.
there is a huge meme, all right? If you don't have data, you don't need to speak about data security, right?
Yeah.
So true.
Exactly. So we help them. And I think it take times. And for sure, in the future, we'll see a bit more trust about that. But for now, we need to handle such capacity of data. And that's the reason we, and thanks to the right people that thought about it a few years ago, and now we can handle that the best in the market.
And,
I love that.
and the thing I like is you're willing to back it up in the sense that you give the customer an opportunity through a POV to the proof of value to see the application, to actually touch it, see it in action in their own data, in their own environment.
Yes, absolutely. I like, this is the best moments, by the way. When
I
a customer,
love that.
yeah, one of the CISO told me, no, show me something bad that I don't know. For sure.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I'm sorry to say, but it's easy. And I like to see it as when you have like a toddler, and for the first time he used glasses.
Oh,
Like,
right.
and like it's pretty much the same. When organization for the first time understand, they don't know. There's so much data that they're not familiar with,
Yeah.
and it's so sensitive. And at the end, most of the breaches, it's about data that the organization didn't know about.
Of course.
100%.
It's really interesting on, when you look at it from a CISO point of view and even a security leader, 5 years ago, the tools weren't inventorying and classifying, and it was so manual. And I don't think that a lot of us realized the scale of data, and especially with generative AI, the exponential scale of data and where it's going and where it's being stored. And, with solutions like yours, it's really uncovering, a lot of, where the bodies are buried per se. But when you think about it, your platform is really helping with cost reduction, because not only are you bringing to light, maybe some flaws in their security strategy anyways, right? But some of that dormant data or dormant, IDs and or identities, things like that. So do you see that CISOs are pleasantly surprised when, in a POV that you can say, hey, I can help you decrease maybe some of that cloud cost there?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
We like to call it shadow data.
Of course, yeah.
Data that no one really understand, you didn't touch it, again, 1 year, 2 years, depends. And sometimes we tell organizations, you're going to save so much money and so much efforts, and you can reduce the risk on the same time, because just to get rid about the data that you didn't use, and don't, for sure you have much more. Organizations speak about sometimes 50 or 60% of the data that it's the data that no one really need, no one really use.
Or it's duplicative. Right?
Duplicate is the one, exactly, duplicate, shadow, archive, it doesn't matter. And I was surprised to learn that even the cloud providers, when at the beginning I thought maybe they don't want us to find such kind of, things, because it's going to be exactly cost. No, but it's the opposite. Because they're care about the customers, and they can take that money from in a very different aspect. It's good for them also to know that they have happy customers.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yes, we are cooperate with all the cloud providers and with the customers at the end to save money. This is not the reason we started, but it's a great side effect.
Yeah, I mean, save money and save time. I think
And
even
reduce
on
the
the
risk.
remediation side too, when you find something, you can help them sort of minimize the risk in some respects. Move
Exactly.
the data to a secure location, mask the data, do things about the data to help instead of just saying, hey, you have a problem to go fix. So I think that also really helps them from a cost perspective, to save them time.
I love this conversation so much because we have an amazing team at Trace3, right? And so we are advising, from a consultancy perspective, many times these types of data strategy, AI strategy, and it is hard to scale without, a tool like yours.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to, reinforce, what are your data retention? What should be your classification? Do you know where your data is? Do you know
How much
shadow
data
IT
you got?
or shadow, shadow data? And so to have that reinforced with a tool like yours is exponentially great, because we're reinforcing the message to have, CISOs as well as security leaders really reimagine security. I think for so long it was do you know where your assets are? Do you know where your people are? And they always go back to those same two questions. And now we're leading with, do you know where your data is?
Yeah.
And that is such a great spot to be in, because one, it's making them more mature, as well as leaning into the right questions, I think, for the first time.
Totally agree. And these days, it's all about the data. In the past, it was when you ask big organization, large enterprise, how many seats, how many people you have.
Points, yeah.
Right.
These days, it's about how much data you have, how you can leverage it. And you said before, always when people ask me, are you sure we need it? I start with very basic questions. Ask the people. I ask them, do you know how much data you have? And there is silence. This is one of my favorite moments, because they understand for the first time they don't know. I would like to say they know nothing about it.
Right.
And data is a new gold, data is a new oil, everything is about it.
And Asher, who runs our data practice, he says his data is the soil.
Yes.
So like you were saying with that life, I loved that before, because I was thinking of Asher Loban on that so much.
Yeah. Well, and even customers that are in sort of heavy M&A activity, acquisition activity, they can deploy solutions like yours as a front runner almost to say,
Oh, great.
I need to
point.
assess this organization
Great point.
quickly. And the fact that they can put your tool in and say, okay, go tell me what they have. I don't know what the amounts, kind of give me that early look at what I'm at, and then give me the posture behind it. Is it wide open? Am I inheriting, something that I need to do a lot of work with or not? So I think you got a lot of uses there as well.
Yeah, and we see M&A use case.
Yeah.
As you said, M&A use case, it's very popular in many large enterprise. They acquire and buy every other month. They have
Sure.
we call it a small subsidiary.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see. Again, they start to combine it into their environment. So yeah, absolutely. And that's helped again with this from the scale angle. It's very important because you add more and more and more, and you want to do it to get it very fast.
Sure.
And we help them a lot with that. It's the glass. It's the place you can learn fast about what you have, and then you can decide how to manage the risk, and how to handle that.
So for security leaders, sometimes this could be overwhelming because they don't lead with data security. Like I said, we were saying, they lead with identity or they lead with asset protection or so many other things. So talking about data security can be sometimes overwhelming for a customer who's like newer on the maturity journey. Where do you think customers should start? You know, it's probably not boiling the ocean and looking at all of their data stores, but maybe, I don't know. So from your point of view, when you are talking to a customer, I know what Jim and I say to customers, but would love your point of view on how they should approach data security with a tool like yours.
Yeah, so there's a few options. The first one, start with the basic. And try to optimize the scope of that's early days of your experiment with data security. So you can choose your top priority environment. You can choose your oldest environment. It doesn't matter. Choose those kind of places that is in top priority for you. And on top of that, start with the basic. Just say, where is my data? Which data I have? Where is my data?
Sure.
What's the access to it? And then you can learn so much about it. You can learn about the culture of the organization. You can learn about the history. And after that, when you really get the first impression, the first understanding of the data, then you can move on to the next step about how can I handle that? What should I do? Which automation I need to put in. So those kind of questions, and most of the time we see it every time. Yeah. So there's high-end organizations that they have everything, and of course they have the ones that start with the basic.
Yeah. I guess, if a customer's thinking about this kind of a solution and they don't have any experience with it, I get what from your seat, what are the things they should be thinking about, I guess, if they're going to go about, hey, I need a data security tool, I need a data security posture management tool, sort of what things should they be thinking about? And more importantly, I guess, what things should they not be thinking about, or trying to avoid as far as, examining other solutions in the marketplace?
So I believe that the best is not to try to do everything on the same time.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
And
it's
again,
too overwhelming. It'll die.
Exactly. It's overwhelming. That's the right term and the right word. Try to do it bite by bite, piece by piece.
Yeah.
And this is the reason I really like and excited about the DSPM, as the first stage, because visibility or understanding your basic, that's the first part. Then you can think about so many other things. As you said before, you can't deploy DLP, you can't adopt AI and think about everything. Start with the brain again, and then push it to the next step by the priorities you have.
Yeah, I mean, we love partnering with, your organization and our governance, really, and our consultancy practices to help, even help customers build out a data committee or governance committee, an AI center of excellence, those types of things to help make some of these decisions. Because once they have the visibility, then they do have to make some decisions on, what to do next and maybe how to, train their end users on how to change behavior, right? Because it is a little bit of a cultural shift. And so understanding kind of what's next and being able to help consult with the visibility and discovery of your tool, as well as really understanding the context, allows them to make really smart business decisions at a faster scale, which will help with their AI adoption immensely, in my opinion. So
I agree.
Yeah, and as you said, by the way, I said before, start with the basic, but even before, ask yourself, which problem would you like to solve?
Yeah.
Like from the business perspective.
Yeah.
And whenever you understand, I want to solve compliance, I want to solve culture thing, I want to understand. Whenever you understand the main question, the main business case, then you can move
Yeah.
back to the technology and the solution and the basic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think obviously, thanks for spending the time. It's not easy to carve out time, especially in this environment. So I guess if there's a final message you want to leave, customers in terms of, either why Sentra and what you want them to kind of start with, how to engage with you, what would that be?
So I'll try to combine the last sentence I mentioned before. If your business is important to you, and if you want to be the best from the business perspective, you understand that data is the pillar for your success.
I agree.
Yes,
And-
sir.
And based on that, you need to handle, you need to secure, you need to understand your data, you need to leverage it. And for that, you need a solution like Sentra. And as I said before, Sentra is the best technology in the market for sure if you are at scale, like if you
Yes.
have a lot of data, if you want to move fast, this is us.
It's visible. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much
Yes,
for
thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.